She broke a horse that nearly killed 3 men. The cowboy said, "Name your price." "It's yours." Emily grew up in a small, dusty town surrounded by wide-open fields and rolling hills. Her family had always been connected to horses. From the moment she could walk, she found herself drawn to the animals. There was something about their strength, their freedom, and the way they moved that fascinated her. While other children played games in the streets or wandered through the town square, Emily spent her afternoons at the nearby ranches, watching the horses run, listening to the gentle clatter of hooves, and feeling the wind sweep across her face as they galloped. Her father had been a skilled horse trainer, though not one who liked to boast. He believed that understanding a horse required patience, attention, and respect. Emily had inherited that calm observation from him. She could sit for hours watching a horse shift its weight, flick its ears, or lift a hoof. She learned that horses spoke without words, and the more you watched, the more they revealed their thoughts. By the time she was a teenager, Emily could ride almost any horse on the ranch. She learned to sense when a horse was nervous, playful, or stubborn. She practiced not by forcing the horse to obey, but by earning its trust. Other children, even those older than her, often struggled with this patience. They wanted to control, to dominate. Emily preferred to listen, to understand. It was this quiet approach that made her skills unusual for someone so young. The town was small, but it had a reputation for its horses. News traveled quickly, especially about dangerous animals. One story that had reached Emily more than once was about a horse named Thunder. Thunder was no ordinary horse. He was wild, strong, and unpredictable. According to local ranchers, 3 men had tried to tame him over the past year. Each attempt ended in chaos. They were thrown violently, some breaking bones, others just barely escaping serious injury. Thunder became more than a horse in the minds of the townspeople. He became a challenge, a symbol of fear. No one dared approach him, and over time, stories about his strength grew taller, as stories often do. Emily first heard about Thunder from Jack, a seasoned cowboy who had tried to tame him himself. Jack was tall, with sun-weathered skin and hands hardened by years of work. He respected horses deeply, but had little patience for bravado. "That horse will throw you if you don't earn his trust," he told her one afternoon as she visited the ranch. "He's not like the others. He's dangerous, and he doesn't care who you are. He's smart. He knows fear, and he uses it." Emily listened carefully, but instead of fear, a spark of determination lit in her eyes. While others were intimidated, she felt a challenge calling her name. She wanted to meet Thunder, not to prove something to anyone else, but to see if she could truly understand him. The thought of working with a horse so powerful and wild thrilled her. There was an honesty in danger, a rawness in it that felt alive. Jack watched her quietly, sensing that this young woman was different. Many had rushed in to tame Thunder, full of confidence but lacking patience. They were strong, but they could not understand the horse. Emily, he thought, might be the one with the quiet strength Thunder respected. The next morning, Emily arrived at the ranch where Thunder was kept. The barn was large, made of dark, aged wood. Inside, the air smelled of hay, dust, and horses. Thunder stood at the far end of the paddock, his muscles tense and his eyes bright with intelligence. He didn't approach her but watched her every move. Emily felt no fear, only a careful awareness of the space between them. She spent hours observing him. Thunder's movements were precise. He shifted his weight before he reared. His ears flicked toward sounds she could barely hear. Emily studied him closely, taking mental notes of his patterns. She walked slowly toward him, keeping her movements calm and deliberate. When she reached the edge of his space, she spoke softly, barely above a whisper. Thunder flicked an ear but did not move away. That small reaction felt like a victory. Emily returned to the ranch each day, sometimes spending hours just standing near Thunder. She did not attempt to ride him at first. She knew the stories of the men who had been thrown. She understood that forcing the horse to submit would only make him more dangerous. Instead, she focused on trust. She fed him by hand, brushed his coat carefully, and walked alongside him in the paddock. Slowly, she began to notice changes. Thunder would follow her gaze, relax his stance when she approached, and occasionally allow her to touch his neck. The townspeople began noticing her determination. Some laughed, some shook their heads, certain she was chasing a foolish dream, but Emily paid no attention. She knew that every horse had its own temperament, and Thunder was testing her as much as she was testing him. She welcomed the challenge. Jack occasionally came to watch, offering advice when asked but mostly observing. He noticed that Emily's approach was different from anyone else's. She was not trying to dominate. She was learning. There was a quiet confidence in her that made Thunder curious rather than scared. Jack remembered the three men who had been thrown. They had been proud, hasty, and impatient. Emily, by contrast, was steady and patient. He wondered if she could succeed where others had failed. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the hills, Emily decided to try sitting on Thunder's back for the first time. She approached carefully, letting him see her coming. Thunder stiffened at first but allowed her to touch him. Slowly, she swung a leg over his back. The moment she settled into the saddle, he reared slightly, testing her balance. Emily held on, keeping her voice calm and even. "It's okay, Thunder, I'm not here to hurt you," she whispered. For several minutes, the horse tested her with small bucks and shifts in weight. Emily remained focused, moving with him, staying steady. She felt every motion, every muscle movement, responding with gentle guidance. Eventually, Thunder stopped resisting. For a fleeting moment, he walked calmly with her on his back. That small victory filled Emily with a sense of exhilaration she had never felt before. It was not triumph in a loud sense, but a quiet, mutual understanding between human and horse. Over the next days, Emily repeated this process. Each ride became slightly longer, each moment of resistance slightly less intense. Thunder began to respond to her commands. He followed her direction, shifted his weight when asked, and gradually allowed her more freedom. It was not easy. Some days he would throw her gently, reminding her of his strength. Some days he refused to move, staring at her as if challenging her patience. But Emily never gave up. She had learned that a horse respected persistence, not force, and she was willing to give it everything she had. The townspeople continued to watch in amazement. Some began to whisper that perhaps Emily could succeed where others had failed. They had seen her fall, seen her get back up, and seen the unusual bond forming between her and Thunder. Jack, who had seen many riders over the years, knew that something extraordinary was happening. He saw the respect in Emily's eyes and the cautious trust in Thunder's. She might actually do it, he said quietly to himself. By the end of part 1, Emily had not yet fully tamed Thunder, but she had achieved something far more important. She had earned his attention, his curiosity, and a fragile trust. The once untouchable stallion was beginning to see her not as a threat, but as a partner. Emily, in turn, felt a growing connection to him, a sense of purpose and determination she had never experienced before. She knew that the real challenge was still ahead, but she also knew that she was ready to face it. The sun set over the ranch, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emily stood near Thunder, brushing his coat gently, feeling a quiet sense of triumph. The journey had only begun, but already she had proved something to herself. That patience, understanding, and courage could create something extraordinary, even in the face of danger. And somewhere in the distance, Jack watched silently, knowing that soon the town would witness a story worth remembering for generations. Emily had spent weeks observing Thunder, learning his habits, and slowly gaining his trust. By now, she could enter the paddock without the horse immediately bracing for an attack. He had begun to recognize her presence as different from the strangers who had come before, different from the three men who had tried and failed. Emily's approach was quiet and steady, her movements deliberate, never rushed. But she knew that observing and walking beside him was not enough. If she wanted to truly tame Thunder, she would have to ride him, and that meant facing the horse's raw power head-on. The townspeople continued to whisper about her. Some admired her courage, though most thought it was foolish. They remembered the stories of the men who had been injured, and some could not imagine a young woman facing a horse like Thunder alone. But Emily paid little attention. Her mind was focused on the horse, and the growing bond between them gave her the confidence she needed. One morning, as the sun began to rise, painting the hills in shades of gold, Emily decided it was time to attempt her first serious ride. She led Thunder out of the barn slowly, giving him time to adjust. The horse's muscles were tense, his nostrils flaring slightly. Emily spoke softly to him. "It's okay, Thunder. We'll do this together." She could feel his energy, wild and unpredictable, but she did not let it intimidate her. She climbed onto his back carefully, feeling the horse shift beneath her weight. Thunder immediately reacted, tossing his head and pawing at the ground. Emily held tight, keeping her balance, her body moving with his. The horse reared slightly, testing her grip. Each movement was unpredictable, each second a challenge. Emily had to rely on everything she had learned, every observation, every moment of patience, every small victory from the past weeks. For several minutes, Thunder bucked and twisted, attempting to throw her off. Emily's arms ached, her legs strained, but she stayed focused. She whispered words of encouragement, guiding the horse gently, never harshly. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Thunder began to respond. He lowered his head, took steady steps, and stopped resisting her commands. The feeling was unlike anything Emily had experienced. It was not triumph in a loud sense. It was a quiet understanding, a connection built on trust rather than fear. Emily's success that morning did not go unnoticed. Jack had come early to watch, as he often did. He leaned against the fence, his arms crossed, a faint smile on his face. He had seen many riders over the years, some skilled, some reckless, but he recognized something rare in Emily's approach. She was not trying to dominate Thunder, she was working with him. That difference, Jack knew, was the key to taming a horse like Thunder. The next few days were even more challenging. Thunder would sometimes cooperate fully, walking calmly with Emily on his back, responding to her subtle cues. Other times he would buck violently, twist sharply, or run suddenly, testing her resolve. Emily fell several times, landing in the soft dirt, scraping her hands or legs, but she never gave up. Each fall was a lesson, each recovery a small step forward. She learned to anticipate his movements, to move with him rather than against him, and to remain calm even when her heart raced. Emily began to notice the townspeople gathering at the edges of the ranch more frequently. Some came out of curiosity, others out of disbelief. They watched as she climbed onto Thunder, rode him for a few minutes, and then returned safely to the ground. Each time, whispers spread through the crowd. Can she really do it? No one has managed that horse in years. Emily ignored the attention, focused only on the horse and the progress they were making together. Jack sometimes offered advice, but mostly he observed. Remember, he said one afternoon, he will test you every step of the way. Don't rush. Don't force him. Let him learn to trust you just as you have learned to trust him. Emily nodded, taking his words to heart. She had learned that patience was not passive, it was active. Every movement, every word, every gesture mattered. As the days passed, Emily and Thunder formed an unspoken bond. She could sense his moods, his energy, his readiness to cooperate. Thunder began to anticipate her actions, responding to her subtle shifts in weight or direction without hesitation. It was a delicate balance, a dance of trust and understanding. Emily felt a sense of pride and excitement with every small success, but she also understood that the real challenge had yet to come. One afternoon, Emily decided to attempt a longer ride. She led Thunder out into the open field, where he had more room to move freely. The wind swept across the tall grass, and the sun reflected off his sleek, dark coat. Emily felt a mixture of exhilaration and nervousness. She climbed onto his back, and Thunder immediately tensed. For a moment, he seemed to remember the fear and anger of previous riders. But Emily remained calm, her voice steady, her hands gentle. She guided him forward, feeling his powerful muscles beneath her, sensing his strength and unpredictability. Thunder bucked and twisted, testing her again and again. Emily held firm, adjusting her balance, moving with him, never forcing him. She spoke softly, "I'm with you, Thunder. We can do this together." Slowly, Thunder began to respond. He walked steadily, then trotted, and eventually broke into a controlled canter. Emily felt a surge of excitement and relief. She had begun to ride him fully, not just for a few moments, but for several minutes at a time. The progress was remarkable, but Emily knew better than to become overconfident. Thunder was a wild horse, and he could be unpredictable at any moment. She remained vigilant, paying attention to every detail, the way he moved, the flick of his ears, the shift of his weight. Each ride was a learning experience, both for her and for the horse. Over the next week, Emily continued to push the boundaries, increasing the length and difficulty of their rides. She practiced turns, changes of pace, and different terrains. Thunder responded more consistently, but he still had moments of resistance. Emily fell a few times, each fall a reminder of the risks involved. But with every recovery, she grew more confident and more connected to Thunder. The townspeople began to take notice in a new way. They no longer whispered doubts, they whispered awe. Emily's determination and skill were clear to everyone who watched. Jack nodded quietly, recognizing that Emily had achieved something few could imagine. "She's got him," he said softly to a fellow rancher. "She's really got him." One evening, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Emily led Thunder to the hill overlooking the town. The wind blew gently, ruffling his mane. She climbed onto his back and rode him slowly along the ridge, feeling the powerful rhythm of his movements beneath her. Thunder walked calmly, then trotted, then cantered. Emily laughed quietly, exhilarated by the sensation of riding a horse that had once been untamable. For the first time, she felt a sense of true partnership with an animal. Thunder was no longer just a challenge. He was a companion. She realized that taming him was not about control or dominance. It was about understanding, patience, and mutual respect. Each day brought them closer, and Emily knew that the real test of their bond would come soon. The story of Emily and Thunder was spreading through the town. People came to watch her rides, not to judge, but to witness the remarkable connection between a human and a horse. Children pointed excitedly, adults shook their heads in disbelief, and Jack watched silently, proud and cautious. He knew that the final test would require not just skill, but courage, trust, and an unbreakable bond. Emily spent that night reflecting on their progress. She knew that the next rides would be even more challenging. Thunder was strong, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless, but she also knew that they had achieved something extraordinary together. She felt ready to face the challenges ahead, confident in her abilities and in the trust that had grown between her and the wild stallion. By the end of Part 2, Emily had not only ridden Thunder successfully, but had begun to form a bond that few could ever achieve. She had learned to anticipate his movements, understand his moods, and communicate with him in ways that went beyond words. She had faced fear, pain, and uncertainty, and had emerged stronger and more determined. The stage was set for the next chapter. Emily and Thunder were ready to face the ultimate test, and the town watched with bated breath, eager to see if the young woman could truly tame the horse that had once nearly killed 3 men. Emily had come a long way with Thunder. Days of patience, hours of observation, and countless small victories had brought them to a point where she could ride him confidently in the open fields. Yet, she knew the real test had not yet arrived. The stallion's strength and spirit were still wild at heart, and the moment of true challenge, the moment where he would either accept her completely or reject her forever, was approaching. Emily felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had trained for this day without even realizing it, learning to trust him as much as he now trusted her. One bright morning, she led Thunder to the largest paddock on the ranch. The sun gleamed off his dark coat, and the wind carried the scent of fresh grass and hay. Emily spoke softly to him, her voice calm but firm. "Today we'll go farther than before. I need you to listen, Thunder. I need you to trust me fully." The horse's ears flicked toward her, and for a moment his eyes softened. Emily took a deep breath. She knew that her confidence and calmness were just as important as her skill. She climbed onto his back, feeling the familiar rise and fall of his muscles beneath her. At first, Thunder moved slowly, testing the boundaries of his own power. Then, without warning, he reared, tossing his head and spinning sharply. Emily gripped the reins tightly, moving with him, whispering words of reassurance. "I'm here, you're safe. We can do this together." She had fallen before, enough times to know the sensation of being thrown from a horse. But now, with every movement, she stayed balanced, her body in sync with his, her mind completely focused. Thunder bucked violently, kicking up dirt and sending small stones flying. Emily's heart raced, but she refused to panic. She remembered all she had learned from weeks of practice: patience, understanding, subtle cues, and the art of moving with the horse rather than against him. She guided him gently, leaning into his movements, allowing him to release some of the energy that had built up inside him. Slowly, he began to respond, calming though still tense and unpredictable. Jack watched from the fence, leaning on the wood and squinting against the sun. He had seen many riders attempt to tame dangerous horses, but Emily's approach was different. She did not rely on strength. She relied on understanding. Jack had tried something similar with Thunder years ago, but even he had struggled. Watching Emily move with the horse, he felt a growing respect. He could see that this young woman had achieved what few ever could. As the ride continued, Emily guided Thunder around the paddock, asking him to change pace, to turn sharply, to slow down. Each command tested both her and him. Thunder responded, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes smoothly, but always with energy and unpredictability. Emily stayed alert, anticipating his movements, adjusting her balance and speaking in low, calming tones. Every small success reinforced their connection, every challenge strengthened her resolve. Suddenly, Thunder bolted. He ran faster than he ever had, his powerful legs propelling him across the paddock in a blur of motion. Emily held on tightly, leaning forward, keeping her body aligned with his. The wind whipped past her face, and for a moment the ground disappeared beneath them. Fear surged, but she did not let it control her. Instead, she focused entirely on the rhythm of his movements, the strength of his muscles, the intelligence in his eyes. She whispered softly, "Slow down, Thunder. You can trust me." The stallion slowed slightly, then spun sharply, attempting to throw her again. Emily's grip was firm but gentle. She leaned into the spin, guiding him carefully, never pulling too hard on the reins. Thunder paused, breathing heavily, muscles trembling with restrained energy. Emily felt a sense of awe and exhilaration. This was the true power of the horse, the raw force that had defeated 3 men before her. And now, in that moment, she was facing it head-on. Minutes stretched like hours as they continued. Thunder tested her again and again, rearing, spinning, bolting, and bucking. But Emily remained in control, not through force, but through patience and understanding. She had learned to read his subtle movements, to anticipate his actions, to respond before the resistance could fully manifest. Each successful maneuver deepened their bond, each small victory reinforced the trust between them. By midday, Emily guided Thunder to a quieter part of the field. The horse's breathing was heavy, but he moved with more cooperation now. Emily spoke gently, patting his neck, praising him. "Good boy, Thunder. You're doing so well." The connection between them was no longer just practical, it was emotional. She could feel his intelligence, his curiosity, his willingness to work with her rather than against her. She realized that breaking Thunder was not about conquering him, it was about earning his respect and loyalty. Jack approached cautiously, stepping into the field. He stopped a few feet away, watching Emily guide the horse. "Name your price," he said quietly, almost to himself. "It's yours if you want it." Emily looked up at him, smiling, understanding the meaning behind his words. She didn't need a price. The bond she had formed with Thunder was more valuable than anything money could buy. She had earned something rare, a partnership built on trust, courage, and understanding. Emily continued riding, testing Thunder's patience and endurance. She asked him to gallop, then slow to a trot, then stop completely. Each command was met with energy and resistance at first, then gradually with cooperation. The stallion was strong, intelligent, and wild, but he was learning to respond to Emily without fear or aggression. She felt a growing confidence in her abilities, a certainty that together they could achieve what had seemed impossible. As the sun began to lower in the sky, Emily decided to attempt the most daring part of the ride. She guided Thunder toward a small hill at the edge of the field, a slope that tested balance and control. Thunder hesitated at first, muscles tensing, but Emily encouraged him softly. "You can do it, Thunder." "We're together." Slowly, carefully, he began to climb, hooves digging into the earth, muscles straining. Emily leaned forward, keeping her balance, whispering reassurance. The horse made it to the top, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. At the summit, Emily paused, looking out across the wide fields. Thunder stood beside her, breathing heavily but calmly, ears flicking in her direction. The connection between them was undeniable now. Emily felt a deep sense of pride and joy, knowing that she had faced fear and danger and emerged victorious, not through force, but through understanding. The stallion that had once nearly killed 3 men now stood beside her as a partner, a companion, and a symbol of courage and perseverance. As they descended the hill together, Jack approached more closely, admiration clear in his eyes. "You did it," he said simply. Emily smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment that was both personal and shared. She had faced the challenge, respected the horse's strength, and earned his trust. The lessons she had learned, patience, empathy, courage, were more valuable than any prize. Emily and Thunder continued to ride until the sun began to set, painting the sky with colors of orange, pink, and gold. The townspeople who had gathered to watch were silent, captivated by the sight of the young woman riding a horse that had once been feared by all. Emily felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. This was more than riding or taming a horse. It was about connection, respect, and the triumph of determination over fear. By the end of the day, Emily had not only ridden Thunder successfully, but had faced the full extent of his wild spirit. She had survived his power, understood his moods, and built a bond that was unbreakable. The challenge that had once seemed impossible was now a shared journey, a testament to the strength of trust and patience. As night fell, Emily led Thunder back to the barn. She brushed his coat carefully, speaking softly to him. "We did it, Thunder. We're ready for anything now." The horse nuzzled her hand, a gesture of trust and acknowledgement. Emily felt a deep sense of connection, a feeling that transcended words. She knew that together they had achieved something extraordinary, something that would be remembered for years to come. Jack stayed a few moments longer, watching Emily and Thunder. He had seen many riders and many horses, but he knew that what he had witnessed today was rare. Emily had faced fear, danger, and unpredictability with courage and patience. She had earned the respect of a horse that had once been untamable, and in doing so, she had proven something to herself, to the town, and to anyone who doubted her. As Emily prepared to leave the paddock, she looked at Thunder with a smile. The road ahead would have more challenges, but she was ready. The bond they had formed was strong, built on mutual respect, courage, and understanding. She felt confident that together, they could face any test, no matter how great. Part 3 ends with Emily having faced Thunder's ultimate challenge, survived his strength and unpredictability, and solidified the partnership that would define her journey. The next part would explore the emotional resolution, the recognition from the town, and the lasting impact of this extraordinary bond. The next morning, the sun rose over the town like a golden promise. Emily felt a mixture of excitement and calm as she prepared to ride Thunder again. The stallion had changed since the day she first climbed onto his back. He was no longer the untamable, dangerous horse that had thrown 3 men. He moved with confidence, but there was still a wild spirit in his eyes. Emily knew that today would be more than a ride. It would be a moment to show the town, and herself, the full result of months of patience, courage, and understanding. The townspeople had heard whispers of her progress, and curiosity had spread like wildfire. By mid-morning, a small crowd had gathered at the edge of the field. Farmers, children, and elders alike watched quietly, their eyes wide with anticipation. They had seen her ride before, but never in such a commanding display of skill and trust. Some remembered the stories of the men who had been injured by Thunder and could hardly believe that a young woman had come this far. Emily led Thunder to the center of the field. The stallion's muscles gleamed in the sunlight and his mane flowed in the breeze. Emily spoke softly, her hands gently brushing his neck. "Are you ready, Thunder? Today we show them what we can do together." The horse flicked his ears and stamped his hooves, responding to her calm confidence. Emily felt a surge of pride and reassurance. She knew he trusted her fully now, and that trust gave her the courage to face whatever might come next. She climbed onto his back, adjusting her position carefully. Thunder shifted under her weight but did not resist. The townspeople held their breath as Emily began to guide him across the field. At first he walked steadily, his movements smooth and controlled. Emily whispered encouragements, letting him know that he could trust her completely. Then she asked him to trot, feeling his muscles stretch and flex beneath her. Thunder responded without hesitation, moving with a rhythm that seemed almost like a dance. Emily guided him through turns and changes of pace, testing both his obedience and their partnership. The horse moved with precision, responding to even the smallest gestures of her body. It was clear to everyone watching that Emily was not controlling Thunder through force. She was communicating with him, guiding him, and moving as one with his strength and intelligence. Children whispered to each other, amazed by the sight. Adults exchanged glances, slowly realizing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Then Emily asked for more. She guided Thunder toward a series of obstacles, logs, uneven ground, and small ditches designed to test his agility and responsiveness. Thunder hesitated at first, muscles tensing as he surveyed the terrain. Emily remained calm, her voice soft but firm. "We can do this together. I trust you, Thunder, and I know you trust me." Slowly, he began to navigate the obstacles, stepping carefully over each log, maintaining balance through the uneven ground, and leaping small ditches with controlled power. Emily's confidence grew with every successful movement, and the crowd's amazement turned into quiet admiration. Jack stepped closer, his eyes bright with respect. "Name your price," he murmured, recalling the words he had said months ago, back when Emily first started working with the horse. "It's yours." He knew that no price could match the value of the bond she had formed with Thunder. This was not about money or ownership. It was about courage, determination, and a unique understanding between a human and an animal that few would ever experience. Emily continued to challenge Thunder, guiding him through a series of turns and gallops, testing his endurance and responsiveness. The horse moved with grace and power, responding to her cues as if he understood every word she spoke. Emily laughed softly, feeling exhilarated. For months, she had worked tirelessly to earn this trust, to communicate without force, and now she was riding a horse that had once been untamable with elegance and confidence. The crowd began to cheer quietly, their initial hesitation replaced with excitement. They had watched her fall, struggle, and rise again over the past weeks, and now they could see the reward of her persistence. Emily waved briefly to the onlookers, acknowledging their attention but keeping her focus on Thunder. This was their moment, a celebration of the bond they had built together. As the ride progressed, Emily guided Thunder to a wide open space in the field. Here she asked him to gallop, feeling the full force of his strength and speed. Thunder moved like a living storm, powerful and unstoppable, yet completely in sync with Emily's guidance. She leaned forward, her movements flowing with his, her voice calm but confident. The wind rushed past her face, carrying the scent of earth and grass, and she felt a freedom she had never known. This was more than riding. It was a shared understanding, a dance of trust, courage, and connection. Suddenly, Thunder paused mid-gallop, his ears flicking and muscles tensing. Emily recognized the signal immediately. He was testing her once more, challenging her control and their partnership. Without fear, she guided him calmly, using every skill she had learned to reassure him and maintain balance. The horse reared briefly, then spun, but Emily stayed firm, her voice soft, her hands steady. Slowly, Thunder relaxed, responding fully to her cues. The crowd gasped and then erupted into applause, recognizing the courage and skill required to handle such a moment. Emily's heart swelled with pride. This was the culmination of months of dedication, patience, and learning. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and danger, and had emerged victorious, not by force, but through understanding, empathy, and perseverance. Thunder's once wild and untamable spirit was now aligned with hers, creating a partnership that seemed almost magical in its harmony. After several more rounds of gallops, turns, and obstacle navigation, Emily guided Thunder back toward the barn. She spoke softly, praising him for his cooperation and strength. "Good boy, Thunder, we did it. You were amazing." The horse nuzzled her hand, a gesture of trust and affection, and Emily smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and connection. The townspeople continued to watch, now fully captivated. They had witnessed not only a skilled rider but also the transformation of a dangerous, wild horse into a trusted companion. Children pointed excitedly, adults whispered in admiration, and Jack stood quietly, nodding with respect. Emily had not only tamed Thunder, she had shown everyone that courage, patience, and understanding could achieve the impossible. Later, Emily walked Thunder to the barn, brushing his coat and speaking softly to him. She reflected on the journey they had shared, the falls, the fears, the small victories, and the moments of connection. Each step of the way had taught her something important about trust, determination, and the bond between human and horse. Thunder had not only tested her skills, but had also taught her patience, empathy, and respect for strength that could not be forced. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily led Thunder to the top of a small hill overlooking the town. The sky was painted with vibrant hues of orange, pink, and gold. She mounted him one last time for the day, feeling the familiar strength beneath her. Together, they stood at the crest, looking out across the fields, the town, and the endless horizon. It was a quiet, triumphant moment, a moment of mutual respect, trust, and shared achievement. Jack approached, his expression a mixture of pride and admiration. "You've done something extraordinary," he said. "Not many could have faced what you did. You earned his trust, and in doing so, you've earned something far greater than any prize." Emily smiled, understanding completely. The value of what she had accomplished could not be measured in money or recognition. It was the bond she had created with Thunder, the trust they had built, and the courage she had discovered within herself. Word of Emily's achievement spread quickly through the town. People came from nearby farms to see Thunder and the young woman who had tamed him. Children asked questions eagerly, wanting to know how she had done it. Adults nodded in respect, realizing that Emily's success was not luck, but the result of dedication, understanding, and courage. Emily spoke to them patiently, sharing her experiences and emphasizing the importance of trust, patience, and empathy, not just with horses, but in all aspects of life. In the following weeks, Emily continued to ride Thunder, refining their skills together. She participated in local events, helping other ranchers understand how to work with difficult horses. She became known not just as a skilled rider, but as someone who could connect with animals in ways that seemed almost instinctive. Thunder, once a symbol of danger and unpredictability, had become a symbol of strength, resilience, and the power of trust. Emily often reflected on the journey. She remembered the fear she had felt when first attempting to ride Thunder, the pain of falls, and the uncertainty of his reactions. She remembered the lessons she had learned. Patience is more powerful than force, understanding is more important than control, and courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to face it with determination. These lessons stayed with her, shaping not only her skills with horses but also her approach to life. One quiet evening, Emily rode Thunder across the open fields as the sun set. The wind flowed through her hair, and the horse moved with strength, grace, and trust. She felt a sense of fulfillment unlike anything she had experienced before. Thunder was no longer a challenge to be conquered. He was a partner, a friend, and a reflection of the courage and patience she had cultivated within herself. Together, they had achieved something extraordinary, a story that would be remembered in the town for years to come. Emily dismounted as the last rays of sunlight faded, brushing Thunder's coat and speaking softly. "We did it, boy. We showed them what's possible when we trust and work together." Thunder nuzzled her gently, as if in agreement. Emily smiled, knowing that their journey had reached a remarkable milestone, but also recognizing that the bond they shared would continue to grow stronger every day. The story of Emily and Thunder became a legend in the town, a tale of courage, patience, and the extraordinary bond between a human and a horse. People spoke of the young woman who had faced a horse that had nearly killed 3 men, and how she had earned not only his trust, but also the admiration of everyone who witnessed their journey. Emily had proven that understanding, respect, and determination could overcome even the greatest challenges, and that true triumph is measured not by control, but by connection.